Program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good afternoon and welcome to the Masai Mara. Look at that magnificent vista. We'll also be in South Africa. This is Safari Live. Yes, indeed. Here we are in the Masai Mara, everybody. My name is James Henry. That's me over here. And I must just tell you, before I give you one more detail about what's happening, making her debut here in the Mara on the director's chair, pushing all the buttons, is Alice Siri. Wonderful to have her here all the way from South Africa. David is on camera. Good. And if you look down over there, what you might see is a blue flash. And if you can see the blue flash, can you see the blue flash, David? I cannot see it at the moment. But running through the Masai Mara in blue is Taylor McCurdy. Now, she's not wearing blue, but the top of her car is so blue that it can be seen from roughly 455 kilometers away. Now, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to link or not, because I'm just plugging my communications in. You can talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. You can talk to us on the YouTube chat stream. And Byron will be out at Djuma as well. And then, well, that's all I have to tell you really, other than the fact that this is the world's most magnificent view, I think. There are wildebeest streaming majestically across the plains, to quote John Cleese, aka Basil Fawlty. And where we're heading is off to a hill way in the distance there, under what is probably going to be another enormous Mara storm, and we're going to get some fuel there later on. On the way there, we're hoping to find some lions, hoping that those lions are hunting, and if they're not hunting now, we hope that they will be in the not too distant future. So that is the plan so far. Now we're going to go across to Taylor with the blueness of her roof. She apparently has already found some lions.
It wasn't very difficult, James. They're right on one of the main roads. I'm actually wondering how on earth you're going to get past us, because there's so many, lots and lots of people who are very excited to see some lions. But I suppose I better introduce myself to all of you, because there might be some who don't know my voice. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Batman, aka Craig, and he's recently just received a new nickname, aka The Rock, and I'm not talking about Dwayne Johnson. But this is Craig now. We'll get into that a little bit later, and we're very lucky we're sitting out here in the Mara Triangle. Now, you might hear a little bit of movement around. There are, like I said, there are quite a few vehicles who are very excited to see the lions. Byron won't be joining us from the sands today, so it's just going to be with, well, myself and James, and Steph will be on the river cams. Let's take another look at these lions. They're moving around quite a bit. The youngsters, the cubs, seem to be up and about. So I wonder where they're going. I don't know if they're going to stay in view for very long. They're running, not these ones, of course, but you can see they're up and staring across the road. And there's quite a big sort of a drainage system. And if they go in there, they're also heading into a non-off-road area. Now, I've decided not to go off-road because I'm going to block a lot of people's views here. So we'll just sit with everyone for the moment. But how cool is this? Now, this is the first time I've seen most of the Agama pride. I don't see any lionesses just yet. Wait, sorry, there's a vehicle just reversing, but they're trying to leave the sighting now as well. There we go. I think they must have done a full day safari and they're on their way back. And there's a big male here. It's beautiful. Now, I don't even know which male this is and what sort of coalition he would be a part of if he's just on his own. He definitely looks like he's been around for quite some time. He's got quite a few scars on him, but he hasn't really had his head up, so it's been difficult for me to see. So if you've perhaps been following the show, you can let me know by hashtagging Safari Live on Twitter who you think this male might be. Some of you guys have been watching for the past few months, and you've got a bit more experience than me when it comes to the Mara. And of course, you can also chat to us on the YouTube chat. So ask questions, send me any information you have on these lions. It's very, very exciting, of course, to be here. And it's just the most amazing backdrop that they have this afternoon. Look at that escarpment. That is so stunning. I wonder where the lionesses are. I did see a couple a bit further away. I suspect, however, that a lot of the cars are going to move on, and we're going to keep looking for them. And then we will have, hopefully, an even more incredible sighting. We'll stick with him for a little bit. I'm going to send you across now to Steph, who's manning the river cams, and it seems as though he's got some elephants.
Hello everybody, and yes, welcome to the River Cams. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Steph, and the River Cams are these very special stationary cameras that we have placed on the world famous Mara River here in Kenya. And I do have some elephants. There's the river there, just to give you an idea of where we're situated. We're located on the opposite bank, and as you can see, the functionality of these cameras is something absolutely spectacular. And thank goodness for that. All technology nowadays allowing us to do this, and it escapes us a little bit with a bit of a gremlin coming in from time to time. We do have a herd of elephant, that is exactly correct there, and quite unlike what is most commonly seen here is these elephants all have relatively short trunks. One thing that has surprised me about the Kenyan elephant herds is the fact that the females all have beautiful ivory, with the exception of any elephant that I've seen in this herd. But what this herd does have is a tiny little baby. And just have a look there. Isn't that cute? Now there's every expectation that this female elephant that you're looking at now is walking with her two calves, the newest addition, and then a calf, a young bull calf from the looks of it, from a previous birth. And that the youngster that is on the far left-hand side of your screen is either a cousin, because they don't look like they're 22 months apart, do they? That's the gestation period of elephants. And plus, well, it's not only the gestation period, it's also the weaning phase of 2 years before an elephant is likely to have another baby. Although, I don't know. What do you think? Are we seeing multiple generations there? Don't forget, this is an interactive show, of course. And just because I'm not sitting on a car, you can still ask me questions using the hashtag #SafariLive. Look at that beautiful ivory from the front there. You can absolutely see that symmetry that is present in these Kenyan elephant herds is absolutely stunning. Much, much better than what we get in the Kruger National Park, and in actual fact in a lot of other African parks that I see. Quite often you get elephants with asymmetrical tusks or very short, stunted ivory. In Kenya, in the Mara Triangle, what I have noticed is very symmetrical tusks, meaning that they are the same length, same width, and same angle, or not same width, but same circumference, same diameter, and at the same angle away from the lip as each other, as opposed to tusks that look like they've been randomly stuck on these elephant faces, as you would find normally in either Botswana or South Africa. Just have a look at that youngster playing over there. Isn't that the cutest thing that you've ever seen? So, Paula, I was just about to answer the question that you just so kindly asked first. You want to know how old that elephant calf is, and I'm busy having a look at it now. So, at about a year, elephants get and erupt their first set of tusks. And if we zoom in here, we won't be able to see tusks there. Also, newborn elephant are fairly hairy, and I don't see any evidence of fur covering that youngster. I can't see any milk tusks sticking out. At about 6 months, they have a set of milk tusks that stick out. So I would say that elephant calf, you always got to look at it in relation, as Noelle was saying yesterday during her drive. You've got to have a look at the relationship between the mother's size and the calf size. I'll give you a good idea. Small elephants have small babies. Big elephants have big babies. The fact that little Ellie has got some control over his trunk says it's not younger than 3 months. I would say that all things considered, at least to my abilities, that little calf is anywhere between 3 and about 5 months old. That is what I would suggest is the age of that little calf. And you can see, still busy picking idly. It's called a precocial behavior. It's what happens when a calf is born fully formed and fully functional, able to walk from close to birth. Quite often they have this behavior that mirrors their parents' behavior. So what mommy picks up, baby picks up. What mom puts into her mouth, baby puts into his mouth. And you can see there, oh, there's a bird, going to chase the bird. That's a plover. Young elephant are very, very cheeky. You can see that head up, ears out. That is a typical threat display for an elephant. Wasn't that cute? These little guys, you know. Are they coming down here? Yeah, there's the oldest cow on the left-hand side. That would be the matriarch of this particular herd. The matriarch being the oldest, wisest, fittest cow elephant in the herd. And It would be her decision where the herd goes, what the herd does. Does it flee? Does it corral around the youngsters and defend? What do they eat? Which direction they walk in that day? Do they walk to the mountains? Do they come out to the river? Obviously, this matriarch has decided that today is a good day to walk on the river for these elephants. They'll feed now probably between 12 and 16 hours a day, and they will sleep, usually at nighttime and flat on their sides. Not all of them together, of course. It is not a very safe survival strategy, sleeping out here all together. And so what usually happens is the youngsters fall asleep and one or two adults, and then the adults rotate through sleep. And although they sound active most of the night, they'll be looking for a place to sleep for the rest of the evening. Let's see if there's any other elephants around here. Monique, you wanted to know if any animals have noticed the river cams. Yes, I've seen buffalo notice the river cams, hippo notice the river cams. There was an elephant right up against the river cam the other day. The elephant, funnily enough, didn't actually bat an eyelid at these river cams. We've seen lion look at the movement of the river cams. Crocodile, which are usually super vigilant, don't seem to mind the river cams at all. Whereas if you were to even poke your head over a rock at the back of those elephant, crocodiles would see you and scurry into the water. So I think a variety of different animals have a variety of different reactions to these cameras, but we've seen no negative reactions whatsoever. In actual fact, we've seen behavior that you wouldn't normally see under any normal circumstances without these cameras. They're truly fantastic. And for the rest of this drive, I'm looking forward to sharing whatever I can find around the 4 cameras we have access to on this river. But without further ado, why don't we send you through to Taylor, who's sitting with some lions of her own.
Right, how cool is this? Now we're still sitting around here. James says there's a lioness in the tree closest to me. Now, the tree that I can see, I can't see a lion, unfortunately, in the tree. I haven't spotted any of the adult lionesses just yet. Is there a lion in there? No. That's quite a big tree for a lion to climb, but I wouldn't put it past them out here. Now, if James does come past me, I can see him coming from the back. I'm going to just double check. I'm pretty sure I can off-road in this area to the right of me, but I don't want to make any mistakes, so I am going to check 100% while we look. But those little ones are definitely looking across. I think they're obviously quite excited by the fact that there's large herds of wildebeest around. I'm sure that they know that there's a possibility that dinner could be served. So I do apologize. As soon as James comes past, I'm going to pop him a question. Don't mind me. Here we go. Now I'm still trying to figure out exactly how many cubs are here, but there's lots. I think there might be about 9 of them or so, of various ages. I can hear James. James, hi. Just want to confirm I can drive here. Hey. Just double checking. Wonderful. It's James, everyone. Look at that hat. Right, I need to get myself under that. No, it will blow off. I can barely keep my hair in a ponytail. So what we'll do, we've got this massive lugger right here, so we can't actually cross this point. So we might actually have to reverse and then go all the way around. But I'm still trying to figure out what lioness James was talking about. I wonder if he wasn't talking about these youngsters that were sitting here, because they're not small. They're not the youngest ones. I think these are the oldest cubs that are around. Just scanning. And the rest of them have all moved off onto the other side of the drainage line, hiding about. There's a big yawn. Isn't that a big yawn? No, I'm also trying to see on my monitor, which is proving to be a little bit on the difficult side. It's very glary down here. What's going on? Oh, there we go. There's the lions. Now, Monique from London, you were saying that you would love to see these lions climbing the trees. Me too. I think that would be fantastic. And well, from watching the Nkuhuma cubs and the Sabi sand, we know that young lions are entertained by trees. Those are my favorite tree climbing lion cubs. They climbed more marula trees than I've ever seen any other lions climb in my entire life, which was really, really quite cool. So maybe we're going to be lucky. Maybe we're going to see similar things happening here with these youngsters. But at the moment, their eyes are fixed on the big herds of wildebeest that are just moving from the north, and they're moving just sort of between, well, there we go. You can see them just on the other side of the river line. coming this way. So I'm looking, while you actually look across at the wildebeest, I don't need to work out where these lionesses are. I don't think the big male has actually seen the wildebeest just yet. He was sound asleep, and I'm not sure if any of you helped me out with which male lion that could have been. Alice, anything? Just, okay. Okay. That's okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'll get there with learning the prides. Obviously, it's very, very, very difficult to try and figure out who's who here. And, we'll get there. I'm just scanning. I still haven't seen a lioness. Wonder where they are. They could be further up in that grass. We will take a drive around in a moment. They could also just be sleeping up, resting somewhere else. Just checking this side. See, Craig, if you look on this side, on the left-hand side, you can see all the cubs. And you can also see how wet it was last night. See, all the ground is churned up quite a bit too. That track looks completely wrecked. That was what we were driving around in. And I don't think we had very much rain either. It's quite amazing how it all looks. But there's lots and lots of things. You see all the cars sitting here watching. The wildebeest haven't started panicking just yet. Let's see what that is down there. I'm even having to raise myself off the seat slightly to get a better view. No, the wildebeest just keep coming and coming and coming. They are not stopping. And they picked up the pace at one point when James was coming through the herd, and then they started sort of cantering along, and now they've dropped back down to a walking pace. That's not to say that there's no lions in the area, of course, because we're probably about 400 meters or so, I would say. The pride of lions that we've got from those wildebeest. So it's quite a distance away. If they were wanting to hunt them, they're going to have to move up and ahead and towards them, because from this distance, unfortunately, they're not able to get there just yet. Okay. Liz, you said that it's the male that we saw is a male from the Chitwa coalition. That's very exciting, so I'm going to add that to my book. Remember when I first started at Wild Earth and I learnt the prides in the north, I had my trusty notebook and I asked you lots and lots of questions. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, so be prepared. Not only are you going to be asking me questions today, but I'm going to be sending them straight back to you, and I look forward to all of your answers. Unfortunately, it's impossible for me to watch every single show because most of the time we were live in Djuma while the Mara team was out as well, but I'll do my utmost best. But it's really cool to see them. I've just seen the Agama pride in drips and drabs here and there, odd female, one or two cubs hiding behind a bush. I haven't really had a clear sight, so this is the most I've seen in one go. Well, at least I think all the cubs are here. Maybe those lionesses have already pushed off and moved off towards those wildebeest. Maybe they're making their move. I think, you know what, let's take a drive. Let's move away from these youngsters because they're not going to be doing any hunting. We might actually have to wait here because we could be trapped. There's loads of cars and I can't see what's behind me either. Okay. This is going to take a little bit of maneuvering around, but we're going to go around, and I think I'm going to drive along the river road. I just want to do a scan before we do any off-roading. It's been very wet. I don't want to sink into the ground. Lots of black cotton soil around here. Steph, however, has not got a mammal. He's got a reptile.
I definitely have got a reptile. Just look at that. Now, while this doesn't look like much, barring a long green lizard lying on a rock, let me show you how big it is. It should be roughly about... That is probably about a 4 to a 6 foot lizard. And you won't really believe what I'm going to say now to you, but this is the primary predator of the Nile crocodile. Can you believe it? Not only is it the second longest lizard in the world behind the Komodo dragon and growing up to a maximum length of about 9 to 12 feet, but these guys specialize in hunting for crocodile eggs. And although not much can tackle a 2,000-pound crocodile, and nothing much does, barring other crocodiles, the vast majority of crocodiles are killed in their first couple of weeks of life, and that includes life in the eggs. And a vast portion of those eggs are dug out and eaten by these water monitor lizards. And isn't the adaptations on this lizard fantastic? So let's just go forward a little bit and have a look at the front claws. They are superbly designed for digging. As you can see, massive forearms and very, very robust claws on the end of those forearms make climbing up mud banks, on sand, in trees and everything that much easier. And then of course scraping away at the sand where the crocodiles lay their eggs, for those of you who didn't know, in the sand, about 2 to 3 feet deep. And using a very sensitive sense of smell and taste, these monitor lizards can gauge where those are, and then they will dig open the nests using those claws. Let's move down the body a little bit, because there's a few other very cool adaptations on this lizard. Obviously their back feet for me are some of the best. Not only do they use those 4 forward-facing toes to climb with, and very effectively they can climb up, down and horizontally on branches. Just have a look at how hooked those are. That's just something out of a science fiction movie, isn't it? But they also have one toe that is slightly backwards facing, and that is so that they can hang upside down. Isn't that the most bizarre thing that you've ever seen there? Just look at that weird back foot. Interesting, eh? And then they've got another adaptation. Their tail is flattened dorso-ventrally, which means that it's flattened like you were pushing your hands together, and that is so that this lizard can swim. An exceptionally gifted swimmer, and you can have a look at how much movement they can generate on that tail. They can swim very, very fast. They pick up weight in fat, and they deposit it in their tails and their back, and this little lizard looks particularly skinny. I can imagine that it could do with a meal or two. Anyway, what we're going to do is leave this lizard to carry on sunning itself. That's what it's doing. Please excuse me for not explaining it a little bit earlier. So this lizard is just enjoying the late afternoon sun draped over the sandbank right now. I'll keep a view on him and see what he's doing. You're off to James, who's got a massive herd of elephant to show you.
We do indeed have an awesome herd of elephants. They've just been walking sort of in front of this huge grey cloud that's coming up and thundering rather ominously in front of us. So that's quite exciting. And what we were doing is just going around the front of the wildebeest herd to see if we couldn't pick up on. Do that once these chaps have moved off the road. Steph apparently was saying to you that he felt that they have symmetrical tusks, the elephants of the Mara. I've seen so many that I thought didn't have symmetrical tusks, so now I'm having doubts as to my own eyes, and so I'm going to check all the elephants here for symmetrical tusks. The first one to look at is not that one because it doesn't have any tusks, but that one there, the big tusked one. She only got, well, she does have 2, doesn't she? Are there 2 there? Or just, no, there are 2. Oh, little baby. Those are very symmetrical indeed. Those ones most certainly aren't, the ones behind. Those ones are. The other thing you'll notice, I think, usually those are not symmetrical, is that they are thinner, almost universally, than the ones that you might find in the Kruger. Now, maybe Steph's right. Maybe I've just seen some odd elephants. There's one without a tail at all. Just down below, you're on it there, Dave. Little baby lost his tail. Shame. Not very nice at all. But the light here, I find, it doesn't matter what time of the day you're out. Even in the middle of the midday, I don't think you can say that. Even in the midday, the light here is usable for photography. In so many other places, not really. And you're all impressed by the tusks, even if they aren't symmetrical, which I think is precisely how it should be. Doesn't really matter if they're symmetrical or not, does it? It's just quite interesting. And the wind is now starting to howl, which is slightly distressing because I think it means that the storm is going to hit us. David and I spent a long time yesterday evening in the close confines of our Land Rover with the flaps down, and I really don't think that either of us ever expected to spend that amount of time, or the time in such close proximity ever. And I suspect it's not something we want to repeat, but we might have to very shortly. Righty, let's move up the road here. I just want to check behind this wildebeest herd. see what we can find there. I think we might need a bit more power. Let's ease along here. Alright, we're going to go back to the river now with Steph and his lizard.
We're still watching this monitor lizard. Could I please ask to go to main north, though, if I could, Alice? It's the one with the little elephants. There we go. This little elephant is busy basically tripping over these rocks. I'll take you back to that monitor lizard now, everybody, but for the moment, let's just watch this little baby. He's been doing the most amazing things. Mom's obviously picking at the very lush vegetation that's growing on the side of the river. Baby is finding a very hard time trying to get over the rocks that Mom seems to be sailing over, and that's because he doesn't have as long a legs as what Mom does. Secondly, he's been shoving his face into the water because he doesn't have the ability to suck water up through his trunk yet. And it's frustrating him that Mom gets to play with all these cool toys and he doesn't get to play with anything. Now, in a river like this where you've got absolutely massive crocodiles, they wouldn't think twice about grabbing a baby elephant like this given the chance. And that is why this little youngster, feeling a bit insecure, slipping over the rocks and then burying his face in the water, is right underneath Mom's legs. That is a deliberate position, and it shows a little bit of insecurity for this youngster. And that is the safest place for them to be. And you'll watch how carefully Mom steps around this little one. Doesn't want to kick it. I'm going to call her a her. Doesn't want to kick her. What you can see over there is you can see that slight tail raise of that youngster. That is absolutely one of the first signs of insecurity, and it's because of the slippery rocks, the rushing river, and everything else that's going on at the moment. Isn't that just wonderful? Now let's see what happens over here when Mom gets to some more of these river things. It is too cute, Paula. I must agree with you on that one. Paula has just commented that this is too cute. Baby elephants are properly cute. I must agree with you there. Just the way that they rush about, are insecure. Look how he shoved his face into the water. That is how elephants drink when they cannot suck water into their trunks yet. You can do a couple of gallons into their trunk at a time. Look at what Mom's doing over there. Actually picking out weeds that are under the water, washing them first and then putting them into the mud. So baby stuck its face into the water, and that is how it drinks. It doesn't use its trunk from birth. It takes about a year to get absolutely, get their trunk under control is what I really want to say. All those muscles, they've got about 100,000 different muscle fibers, including a muscle fiber that's completely unique to elephant called the helical muscle. That helps the elephant to extend and contract the trunk without destroying functionality. A very, very useful extension of the top lip and the nose of a mammal. That. Interesting, hey? Now you'll notice when Mom turns her eye again, I'm not going to speak about it now though because we can't see it. She's got this white deposit that's on her eye. That's a glandular secretion. You can see all elephants get it. It's more commonly seen in male elephant. And just a couple of months ago, we were debating as to whether female elephant get it as well. And that obviously ends that debate in its tracks there. But female elephant absolutely get that white deposit. I grew up learning that it was a stress deposit, but it actually isn't. It's just a sign of some hyperglandular activity, and it's a deposit that secretes itself over the eye and collects like sleep does, I suppose, in the corner of the eye. Baby's still feeling a little bit insecure, stuck out there between Mom's legs. Ears flat against the body. Weather Wonder, you wanted to know if this baby fell into the water, if it would get washed away. Yes, it's small enough to get washed away. Absolutely, Weather Wanderer. But Mom is right there. Mom would rush in, and they'd take a much stronger current than what is currently in the river to actually wash Mom away. And I'm sure that with the natural ability of elephants to swim, they are incredibly gifted swimmers. Much better, in actual fact, than what zebra and what wildebeest are. for lack of a better word. There's some safari cars in the background over there, also enjoying the sight of these elephant. I'm sure that this elephant will be able to keep its head above water, or at least its trunk above water. That's all is necessary until Mom can come and save it and get it done quite quickly. And I must be honest, I wouldn't want to tackle a mommy elephant, even if I was a 2,000-pound crocodile. Although there's records of it. I mean, I've seen photographs of crocodiles attached to the noses of elephant that were unlucky enough to be in the same area as that was. All right, let's leave these elephants for a little bit. Why don't we go and have a look and see what our lizard is doing at Dusty Crossing? I can already tell you that it's moved on. No, I've lost it. Excuse me, I've now managed to lose our lizard at Dusty Crossing, and so we won't. There's Dusty Crossing, and you can see that is where our lizard was lying, and the slither marks are evident there in the center of your picture. And gone off here and is now hunting the bank here somewhere. Ah well. All right, so why don't we go to the mountain cam view? Let me show you what is happening over the Mara at the moment. There is a storm brewing, which is the same as it was yesterday. And isn't that just a lovely view? Those dark clouds there. Let's see if I can get some more doom and gloom with changing some settings on this camera for you. That's pretty much what I'm looking at right now in terms of my view over the Mara. And isn't that just wonderful? Nice stiff breeze blowing down there. We're on a bit of a valley. Lots of wildebeest dotted down in the valley. And I hear my friend James has predicted that there might be a storm coming in. Shame, they got so wet last night. They were out there almost the entire night. Between Scott Taylor and James, they covered the entire night. And for 3 or 4 hours, they were sitting hunkered down underneath their rain covers in a most uncomfortable place. Have a look at all those wildebeest. This is incredible. Richard, you wanted to know if we are going into the rainy season right now. Richard, this is actually still officially the dry season for the Mara, to be honest with you. And although we are getting a lot of rain, almost every second or third day we end up getting a lot of rain over here. It is officially their dry season. We go into what they call their long wet in November, December. And that lasts until the end of February. And I am told that this place turns into an absolute marsh over those times. And although I really want to see that time of the year, I am not looking forward to getting vehicles stuck and unstuck and sliding around all over the place. I think it is going to seriously diminish the area that we get to cover now, which is massive, and restrict us to all-weather roads and everything else in between. Just have a look at the sheer number of wildebeest that are down there. Now, most of the herds have dispersed now, so what happens is these herds leave Tanzania and become concentrated as they move up into this particular area. And they get here en masse. You look at a couple of 100,000 wildebeest at any given time in any given area. What happens then is they move around a little bit, and they basically react to rainfall patterns and to grass growth and to feeding pressure. And towards the end of the migration in the Mara, they've dispersed over the entire Mara ecosystem and end up being these groups and collections of wildebeest, numbering still in their hundreds of thousands in any particular area. They, of course, in the total Mara Greater Mara ecosystem, we're looking at about 1.5 to 2 million wildebeest. And this year we've had an exceptional number of wildebeest come into this area, mainly because this part of the world is under a drought, and there hasn't been a lot of grass left in Tanzania. And so lots of wildebeest, rather than being left behind, have decided to come to the Mara, where feeding is good all year round. They will, when the big wet comes and once the mating has been finished, or they've already mated in actual fact, it's just the last few ladies that need to fall pregnant. Once that happens, they will be moving back to Tanzania, leaving all the sedentary herds behind. Not quite 2.5 million animals, but far more than what we'd see anywhere else, that's for sure. Now, I'm going to carry on scanning through my cameras and finding something interesting to show you. And why don't you go over to join my friend James, who's driving around looking for some cool things to show you.
thing that we found to show you at the moment is some zebra, and then some warthog to the left of them. And we've also managed to find some air moving at an enormous speed. The wind today is quite something, and you know, the weather feels almost coastal here sometimes because the wind blows so hard and so much. And then way off to the left there, Darby, there's a large line of wildebeest moving, as a group of ants might move into one of the tents, for example. We've had an ant infestation, everyone. Mercifully I have been, and my tent has been kept free of ants. But many have had to escape in the night with nothing but their pillows and their duvets. I joke not. And I'm scanning now just to see if I can't find some lions here. While I do that, apparently a first-hand tale of woe from the attack of the killer Maasai ants from Craig.
You'll have to ask him about the ants too. It's quite funny, in fact. I'm glad I'm not being attacked, well, touch wood, by the ants just yet. Now, we've sort of moved around a little bit. We've come towards where the wildebeest herds are. I scanned and scanned and scanned where those young lions were, just off one of the main roads, and I couldn't see any adults besides, of course, that male. And I don't know where the girls have gone. I believe they were here earlier today. Whether they're just lying in this long grass somewhere, I'm not exactly sure, but they definitely haven't had a move just yet. So the pride was down there. You might be able to see some of those cars just in that area, all the way down there. So that's where those youngsters are. But I haven't seen any lionesses. So they could have gone somewhere else. I don't know how it sort of worked. I didn't have the sighting this morning. Maybe that male just stumbled across the youngsters. Or perhaps the lionesses were there at one point and he decided he's not going out. He's just going to sit and relax, which is fine too. Everyone to their own. But the girls, I don't think are here. I wonder if they haven't pushed maybe a little bit further east, back to their favourite hunting ground, which it seems to be their favourite hunting ground. But there's no sign of an adult lion just yet. But we'll suss it out a little bit longer. We'll stay for 5 or so more minutes. And if we don't have any success around here, maybe a little bit later might be a good idea to come back. We know those adults will have to come back to the young cubs. I did hear that there were some other lions around Hippo Pools, and that's not too far away from where we are now. We could always head to that side and then come and sort of bounce between the two prides, go and see what's happening down there, and then come back to where the Agama pride have left their youngsters. I wonder where they are. Sneaky cats. So I'll do a little bit more driving around and see if I can get a better view behind some of these shrubs. Steph, however, is still sitting inside the studio watching all the wonderful things that are coming down to the water's edge.
That was a pretty cool shot of those wildebeest walking in those lines. That's how it is here in the Mara. It's just lines and lines of wildebeest walking from one place to another. I think just going where the grass is greener, I think, is about the only thing that drives them. What you're looking at here is not a fantastic suitcase or a stump or a piece of moss-covered rock, but it is a crocodile. And I actually think it's a crocodile that's fishing. I've drawn your attention to it because just before you came to me, it had its head out of the water swallowing something, and just because of the angle that this crocodile is at, I couldn't tell what it was feeding on, but I actually think it's catching catfish. Now, it's very common for crocodiles to lie in waterfalls like this, with their mouths slightly open, as most fish would want to use these as raceways to go upstream when it's been raining quite hard. And over the last 24 hours, we've had a lot of rain here. And I think what this crocodile is doing is just fishing one of these waterfalls. I've seen it happen often, and I'm just waiting for this crocodile to actually catch something. It's going to be quite cool if we can see it catch a catfish. Obviously, fishing is what brings crocodiles up to these monstrous sizes, and then the herds of wildebeest, zebra, and Thompson's gazelle, and topi, and everything else that they manage to eat as they get bigger, and of course all the flood damage and everything that brings all these carcasses down to them. They just reach the big size plus is what they get to. but it's fish that really sustain them. First insects, then fish, and then large mammals. And I think what this crocodile is doing is just instinctively hunting an area where fish would probably congregate before going up the slightly less turbulent step to the next pool or to the pool above them. I think that's pretty nice. What I'll do is I'll keep an eye on that crocodile. Why don't we go to main north camera where our elephant herd has been feeding slowly down the river and go and see what this little baby's been up to. There he's drinking and has been for a swim, completely submerged. Oh, cute. Obviously tried to walk with mom, who went deeper into the water, and you can see has been completely submerged and now is having a drink. Oh, that is cute. So that answers your question from a little bit earlier. I think it was Shannon who asked the question about elephants being washed away. Weather Wanderer, excuse me, Willow Wanderer, please excuse me for getting your name wrong. You asked if elephants can swim and do they get washed away. I think that exactly what's been proved here is that Ellie went into the water to go and get something that was in there. Baby followed and is completely submerged but not washed away. Have a look now. Now what baby's trying to do is have a drink, and I don't think mom wants anything of it. Mammary glands sit between the front legs of elephant. Babies will curl their trunk over their foreheads and will reach up to the mammary gland that has milk at that particular time. They also swap sides, very similar to most mammals. And baby's just having a good drink now after having a swim. There we go. Oh, that is pretty cool. Very, very nice. LMK, you wanted to know, do we know why yet these elephants have more hair on their tails? Wow. I suppose the question I have to ask is, do we know that they've got more hair on their tails? I suppose this particular elephant has a lot more hair on her tail than I've seen in most elephants. Is it unusual? I want to say no, LMK. I'll be honest with you, I don't think they've got any more or less hair on their tails. The baby just fell down in the grass. Mom turned around to see what's happening. You saw that immediate reaction there to the baby falling down. Have a look at the way the herd... That was a proper display of how protective these mommies can be. That baby just fell down, and you watched how mom and what is probably an auntie reacted to some or other disturbance there from that baby. Baby in the middle, still trying to get a drink. Come on, mom. I think that you find that elephant tails will be relatively thinner, in areas that have more hooked thorns. And in the Kruger National Park, there's a lot of bushes with hooked thorns, especially where elephants like to eat. And I think the hooked thorns pull the elephant's tail hairs out. In this particular ecosystem, the presence of hooked thorns is actually quite small. There's straight thorns, but there's not a lot of hooked thorns. And I think that means that there's less chance of the elephant's tails getting snagged in these thorns and pulled out. And that is why you find that the elephants possibly have more hair, relatively speaking, or by comparison. But I don't think that they have more hair than what elephants are supposed to have, is probably my point. There is a big bull elephant there in the back. Now, bull elephant will visit herds of elephant, big mature bull elephants. Sorry, a bit more context. A bull elephant will leave a herd anywhere from about 12 years old to about 18 years old. Generally speaking, they go and join very old bulls and learn from them for a while. At about 35 years old, the bull starts to go into his sexual maturity, and bull elephant go into a period called must, which is an increase in testosterone. It's a natural thing. It's a cyclical thing that happens with elephant bulls. At this point, they will be compelled to find elephant females in estrus. In actual fact, the smell of an elephant female in estrus becomes almost irresistible to a bull elephant in must. And they will start their wanderings around the reserves and around the conservancies, visiting elephant herd after elephant herd until their period of must comes to an end, and then they go dormant. This particular bull elephant doesn't look like he's 18 years old. He looks like he's a decent-sized bull elephant. You'll see now what I mean with the fact that that he's much bigger than the female elephants, which are also standing in the foreground to him. And I know from your comments at the moment that you think exactly the same thing. Beautiful. What I'm not seeing, though, is any significant sign that he's in must. So obviously with a 70% increase in testosterone, the elephant's glands all over his body just go into sort of hyperproduction. And quite often what will happen is just behind the eye, you will be able to see a swelling there. The skull almost becomes slightly deformed, and he definitely has that slight deform. So have a look behind the eye. Up, if the eye was the center of a clock, basically at 11 o'clock, you'll notice that there's a tennis ball size swelling. That is that gland that's swollen at the moment. It's not weeping in this particular elephant bull, but it is enlarged. He may be coming in or going out of must, and he's now wandering around visiting elephant herds to determine which cows are in estrus until he finds one, either just before she goes in estrus ideally, or he will arrive while she's in estrus and just before she's ovulated, hopefully, and in that case fight any other large male elephant in the area off. Female elephant, they react to this must smell, or this must smell. These bull elephants have the most particular and peculiar smell about them when all their glands are in sort of hyperproduction. There's this very cloying, sickly, sweet smell. And they find this perfume absolutely irresistible. And they will then be drawn to the biggest, most robust, most aggressive bull elephant that they can possibly be drawn to. And then when they ovulate, her body will be compelled to mate with the elephant bull that's the biggest and the best for her at that particular time. And this male elephant's hoping to be one of those, I'm sure. So that's basically sort of elephant breeding behavior in 10 minutes, if I could give it to you in 10 minutes. Isn't that a lovely scene, though, that we've got there? Elephants on the bank of the Mara River here in Kenya. Storm blowing in, wind pelting around. Very nice. All right, on that note, I'm going to be sending you over to James, who's still driving around, searching for anything interesting.
Look at the thousands and thousands of animals that we have found. It wasn't very hard, you could see them from miles away. But there's an enormous herd of wildebeest and zebra on these plains, and a little while back, you know, we thought to ourselves, well, I'm sure they're gone from this place now because they were here and then they disappeared. Well, here they are again. They're all facing to the south. They could so easily just turn around and come back north again. But I tell you, the area that I think holds the most fascination for these wildebeest at the moment is that area called the Salt Lick, where we've watched so many hunts happening. And I think there's something about the soil there that they really enjoy. Now, you're going to drive with us, and we're just going to drive slowly through this group, just so that you can get a sense of how very large it is and how many wildebeest there are. And in fact, they stretch all the way as pretty much as far as the eye can see. Not quite, but I'd say about, I can see at least, say, 4 miles into the distance, and there are wildebeest dotted over all of the space that I can see. So we'll just ease our way through here. Now, I'm gonna share something with you that I was thinking as I was driving along here. And I thought, how am I going to express this? Should I write it down, or perhaps should I say something? And now, well, the opportunity presents itself. Here we sit in amongst a herd of thousands and thousands of wildebeest, right? And we have watched countless numbers of them being killed this season. Some of us have felt sorry, some of us have felt shocked. Very few of us have felt very happy when we've watched the death, and those that have been mercifully quiet. But I drive past these things, and what I'm going to ask Dave to do is to just pick one, pick any one, pick that one over there, and just focus in on it there. Anyone you like, David, I will follow you. You just choose one wildebeest. Now, there's one wildebeest. Look at the detail on it. It's white beard, its beautiful black mane, its black tail, the astonishing ability that it has to scratch its right ear with its right back hoof, the stripes for camouflage, the stripes possibly for maintenance of temperature, those special horns, the perfect design for it to run all the way from the southern plains of the Serengeti up to here, turn around and go back again, year after year. Superb eyes, superb smell, superb ears, and a social arrangement that is very interesting. Now that individual wildebeest began, just like all other mammals, as a zygote, a meeting of a sperm and an egg, and then it became an embryo, and then it became a little calf wildebeest, and this one very luckily made it up here, possibly for the third or fourth time. It looks like a 3 or 4 year old wildebeest. What am I talking about here? Well, what strikes me is that we look at this group of wildebeest as an amorphous hump of, or mass of animals. And when we think of them being killed, we think, oh, a wildebeest died. And I found myself becoming less and less kind of traumatized by the death. And nobody should be traumatized by it, but I've become inured to it. And yet every one of these wildebeest is a spectacular design. It's a spectacular evolutionary achievement. And every single one of them is an individual, and every time one of them gets killed, it's an individual life that's snuffed out. And I don't think we should necessarily feel sad about that, but I feel that we should appreciate it, and maybe all of you do appreciate it, but I find that over the course of this migration season, it's become quite easy to say, oh, well, they're hunting another wildebeest, or they're hunting another wildebeest. Slightly less so for animals that aren't quite so common. So if we see a zebra going down, Steph had a very traumatic crossing with a zebra today that had half its sort of hind quarters eaten off while it was still alive. And because there were fewer of those, and we see it happening far less, I think we felt a little bit more. But it amazes me that we have, and I'm not sure why it amazes me, but we have this huge mass of thousands of wildebeest, and each one of them is this astounding little achievement of nature. And I just wanted to share that thought with you. I'm not sure what it means. I suppose we might transfer it into humanity in our own sort of appreciation of humans and the number of humans that there are in the world. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. While you ponder on these philosophical or slightly weird thoughts, let's go across to Taylor, who has got a prism that has split the light.
James, well, that was beautifully said. We do indeed. We have a lovely rainbow, and there's lots of rumbling of thunder in the distance too. The rain is coming our way. Now, you might see something shiny just at the base of the rainbow. That's not the pot of gold. It is a vehicle that I think is searching for the pot of gold. Maybe we should also go and give it have a little look around there. Who knows, Craig? Might find a leprechaun or two. Now, there's an abundance of game out and about in this area. We're really quite lucky. It's really, really stunning out here. Now, if you are wondering why we have left, of course, the lions, I couldn't see any lionesses. It was just the youngsters about. And also the rain was coming around that way, and there's lots of lightning. So I didn't want to get stuck there. So we'll just head up towards hippo pools, and then we will come back this side a little bit later. And hopefully those girls return. But a beautiful Maasai giraffe. Like I said the other day, they just really, you can really see now how the giraffe tower over the wildebeest, the zebra, and even the elephants to an extent too. There were a couple of them. I think they're heading towards the river line now. They're just moving off into the distance. There's just everything here. I don't know where to look. It's very difficult. Now, I know I have to stare at the monitor, but I just want to look everywhere else too. There we go. Some zebra and wildebeest not happy about those elephants barging on through, but that's okay. For size does matter out here. So if you get in an elephant's way, you're going to find yourself in a bit of trouble. The wind is now also starting to pick up. I think we might be in for a similar case to what we experienced yesterday. Sort of just before the sunset, the rain might come through, maybe even earlier. It seems to be moving quite quickly towards us. Look at that black, black, black sky. Beautiful, though, of course, the contrast with the golden grass. And I always speak about how some of my favorite pictures are often of animals in the golden grass with the big stormy, gloomy skies behind it. It is very pretty. And there are plenty of photographic guests out and about at the moment coming to visit experience the migration too. Isn't that lovely? I wonder where these animals are going to go if the storm hits. I didn't quite see what was happening last night because we were zipped up in our tent. So I don't know if they do what the animals like to do in the sand. They sort of move around and out of the open and look for some cover. However, I wonder if these wildebeest and zebra just don't stand out in the open and let the rain down on them. Maybe that's what happened to the zebra's shadow stripes. Perhaps they were washed away by the torrential rains. That's, of course, not what happened. I'm just talking absolute nonsense. It's another thing I find quite interesting out here, and I'm not sure what the reason behind it is. Obviously, it's the same species of zebra that we see down in South Africa, and I saw the same thing in Zambia. They come up north, a little bit further north, and then all of a sudden the shadow stripes are gone. It's very, very interesting. Craig, I think we might have to keep moving. Let's keep away from the storm that's now coming in above us. The clouds are gloomy, very, very gloomy, and I don't want to get caught in a surprise downpour. So we'll try and head away from it for now and just avoid it, and we will come back that way. But so lovely to see so many different animals all moving around together quite peacefully. Now, I'm not sure if I heard correctly. I think I'm going to send you across to Steph to have a look at a bird.
Isn't it just amazing, all those wildebeest, to be honest with you? You cannot understand how fantastic it is to drive through herds like that. And both James and Taylor they must be having an absolute ball of a time. What you're looking at there is a sacred ibis pecking at the remnants of a catfish. Now, I want to show you, taking into context a little bit earlier, we were watching a crocodile possibly fishing for catfish. Just have a look at the size of this catfish. This is just the head of a catfish, okay? There we go. That's just the head. I'm battling to see exactly how much. I've got my face glued to the screen here, the one screen that I do have. There we go. So on the mouth is on the left-hand side. You'll be able to see the characteristic whiskers and the flat mouth. Now, that bird that you're looking at there is about as big as a big chicken. And that catfish is easily as wide as that bird's body. Now, you can imagine how massive that catfish must have been. Easily a 4-foot catfish. And that would have been the perfect dinner for a crocodile, which would just have eaten the back end of the catfish, leaving the head, which is mainly just bone alone, with a superabundance of food at the moment. There would have been no need to have eaten the rest of the catfish. And we just had a comment from, please Alice, just our viewer's name, I couldn't catch it. Oh, Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill, you just said, what a catch. This bird is very clever, being able to utilize the food. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. For what is predominantly an insectivorous bird and a hole probing bird, they've managed to using their beak, extract a vast amount of protein from this particular meal, and is making the most of it before it gets stolen from it by something. This catfish is almost too big to have been caught by a fish eagle. I think it's most probably just the leftovers of a crocodile kill. A crocodile would have come into these shallows. There you could see the whiskers just popping up there. For those of you quick enough to catch a screen grab, you may just be able to catch it in this bird pick. There we go. There, absolutely. So that was undoubtedly the leftovers of a catfish, as this bird, who with its skinny little neck is managing to pick up something that weighs probably 3 or 4 pounds. Unbelievable, actually. What a show. Now, what I have got at Main South Crossing for you is something that would have caught this catfish. And so let's go and have a look at this. How fantastic is that shot? That is a young crocodile, and it's just busy catching the last rays of the sun quite close to one of our cameras. Now, what is quite interesting, and which is these cameras have allowed us to do, is to view crocodiles in their natural environment from so close. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't be able to walk or drive a car anywhere close to these crocodiles. As soon as you got close to them, they'd just slither off into the water and disappear. What is amazing is, for me at least, the ear flap. So just behind the eyeball at the top of the head, that green marble, is a tiny dark black slit. Extending away from that slit is a curved line, which extends all the way back to the back of the head, back of the knob on top of the head. That is the ear flap, and that the crocodile can open and it can hear with. That entire canal there that you can see is the ear flap. And pitted across their skull is a bunch of tiny little holes. Now, I don't know this for certain, and I'd love for some help on this, but when I was studying zoology at university, we dissected a shark. And in the nose of the shark was a bunch of pits. I can't remember for the life of me what they're called right now, but these pits were jam-packed with sensory organelle. And I am almost willing to bet that a crocodile's head is exactly the same as a shark's head, that those pits are jam-packed with sensory organelle, and I've seen crocodile go up and nudge food and anything foreign in the water, from sticks to shoes to even a plastic bottle the other day. I watched a crocodile nudge it, and I think that they can sense through these organelle. Definitely some or other type of chemical signature is transferred through these things. Just have a look at that. Youngster, you can also see that I was told this as a young boy and it stuck with me, that the nose, which is that protuberance on top of the end of the snout, that's the nose and the nostrils. That round disc-shaped thing on top of the snout. The eyes and the ears are all on one plane, so that the crocodile just has to either stick out the disc of its nose to breathe if it wants to stay completely hidden, or the eyes and ears to listen and see with, or all three if it really wants to come up, without the rest of its snout showing above the water. You can imagine how disjointed that would look and how perfect the camouflage would be. Of course, crocodiles lying on the bottom of in the leaf debris on the bottom of a murky river. Can you imagine how hard that would be to see? Have a look at that crocodile. Isn't that just fantastic? Take care. You wanted to know if crocs have got binocular vision. Wow. I've never actually considered that question before. Let's go and have a look. So to get binocular vision, you've actually got to have an overlap of the two pictures that come into your eyes. Something like a lion, for instance, or a human. We've got eyes on the front of our face, and the vision, the picture at least from our one eyeball versus the picture from our other eyeball overlaps in the center of our vision, giving us the ability to see slightly different views of the same picture, and that is interpreted by our brain into a spatial dimension, which gives us 3D vision. Crocodiles, do they have 3D vision because they are predators and need to judge distance to catch fish? Good question. Let's see. Can we tell on this crocodile? I am unfortunately not able to tell on this crocodile whether or not from the front we'd be able to see both eyeballs at the same time and whether there'd be some overlap there. But I can guarantee you this, that I'm going to look for a crocodile facing us throughout the course of the rest of this game drive, and I'll try and answer that question for you. That is a very awesome question. Thank you. Why don't we go to the mountain cam and go and have a look at the progress of the storm that we've got at the moment, and see how it is developing. And there you go. You can see that it is actually blowing over the Mara at the moment and is now, but it seems to be clearing up. I'm just having a look outside my window over here, which is actually a better view. It seems to be clearing up from the northern side. What do you think? Some rainy cloud in the middle. I wouldn't like to be James and them now, to be honest with you. I don't quite think that it'll be fun. Why don't we go and have a look at what our sacred ibis is busy doing with its catfish leftovers, its catfish dinner. What a fantastic meal that the sacred ibises have. The sacred ibis has now been busy here for a good 20 minutes or so. It hasn't stopped eating even one little bit, and I think is going to completely fill its crop with catfish and will then go and roost for the rest of the evening. Very much full, I think, is what's going to happen. Isn't that just superb? Very nice. All right. I'm going to carry on looking for some interesting things here, and we're going to send you over to my friend James, who's got a patch of grass that looks like it's had some dinner.
It does indeed, and these very interesting patch of grass here. 2 young male lions, and in front of them, there's a third one right there, just stuck its head out. 3 young male lions. We seem to be rolling backwards. That's a bit distressing. And I'm not going to stay with them long now. I'll tell you why, because I have got to get fuel. Before there's a large fuel shortage at the moment, and so I've got to go and get some fuel. But what we are going to do is come back here for the sunset, because these lions are close to herds, and we know that these big males, or that these young males, sorry, not the big males, love to hunt as the sun goes down. So now we have a plan for the evening, and what I'm just quickly going to do is there are a whole lot of punters and the vehicle next to us taking pictures of me, so I'm going to quickly take a picture of them. Yes, there we go. Wonderful. And oh, Nat Geo. You take the camera out and you take a picture of them and they go. It's very funny. Anyway, they're all very good-natured about it. Okay, we're going to leave these lions simply because I want to come back here and be back here in time for the sun to go down and to see if they are going to hunt, because I'm pretty sure they will. There's another pride also of 6 just up ahead. Okay, let's head back to Taylor, and she's got something that she wants to show you. Bye-bye.
It's the first time that I've seen the Defasa Waterbuck. This is a new antelope species for me. How cool is that? So straight away you can notice they don't have the white ring that the species of waterbuck that I'm used to seeing in South Africa have. But it's amazing to see that they've still got fairly white bottoms. And that's amazing. So I'm sure that is still their follow me sign. It's just their circle around their rump has melted into one big thing. Isn't that quite cool? And they're so much darker in color too. They're around about the same size. I haven't actually had a look at the weights, but just from looking at these females, they don't look any smaller or any bigger than the waterbuck species that we get down south, or the common waterbuck. But beautiful colorations on them. Still beautiful shaped, heart-shaped noses. And those lovely sort of white stripe going above their eyebrow. Aren't they stunning? Now, I don't think we've seen waterbuck crossing the river just yet. Now, Jim, you said that these waterbuck look small. I can assure you right now they are not small. I reckon if I were to walk up to one of those waterbuck, which I wouldn't be able to do because they would run away from me, but if I could walk up to one, I might be a little bit taller than them. But I don't think by too much. Like I said, waterbuck are not small antelope. They're quite large, in fact. They're quite heavy set as well, unlike, say, something like an impala, which is a lot more on the slender side. But as I said, they're fairly the same. Just the only difference really is that they're not they are darker than the common waterbuck, and then they don't have the ring. Now, I keep feeling a couple of drops here and there, so I suspect that the rain is going to come down. I'm going to guess. Should we see how right I am? I'm going to still try and keep avoiding it. I'm going to keep heading towards the west where the sun is setting. There don't seem to be too many clouds around there. We'll move away from this area in which we are in now. I did want to go past Hippo Pools though, because apparently there was a male lion around there. So we'll see if we can find him. And then we're going to go and follow up on those prides of lions that we had yesterday. And Scott managed to relocate them, of course, last night after we lost them. It's just a vehicle coming past. And so I'm excited to see what they get up to. And then hopefully head back towards the Agama pride. And then it'll be quite nice. I think it'll be beautiful. Let's just keep our fingers crossed. Here goes the thunder. You can hear rumbling in the distance. You keep going that way. Keep going south. Well, before Steph's bird flies away, apparently it's quite cute. Let's go take a look.
It is quite cute. Thank you very much. This is the plain martin, a common bird resident of these sandy riverbanks on the banks of the Mara, where they excavate shallow little holes. And I think this particular little martin has decided that it wants to just get out of the wind and the rain for now. These are aerial artists, very similar to swifts and swallows, and superb birds that catch insects on the wing, basically. Isn't it just amazing how close these cameras can get? These birds, they do migrate. They migrate a very, very long distance, all the way from Europe and Asia. And can you believe it? Flying all the way down here to come and breed on the banks of the river. Linda, you say that there was a little puffball, and as we said it, we managed to frighten it away. Let me see what else I can find over here for us while we at it. Oh, there we go. There's another one now. It gives us some chance to look at it from the back. Let's go down and we can see that characteristic sort of pale breast on these martens. Oopsie, I've lost some focus. Natalie, you say that it looks like a little Disney character. At the moment, it looks like nothing much. I'm battling with the focus, and of course, because I'm not a gifted cameraman, I'm just an imbecile with 55 thumbs. It's very difficult. Yeah, Rebecca says it was looking like a kaleidoscope. Thank you, Rebecca. But there you can see those long primary flight feathers that make these birds such very effective flyers, generating such high wind, such high speeds, and able to catch those insects that are trying to outwit them. Now, what is interesting about birds is that I didn't know, well, you obviously did know that birds molt, they lose their feathers, but primary feathers are molted one feather at a time. So this bird would molt one feather at a time. The primary feathers are the non-fluffy feathers that you see that make up its ability to fly. So the bigger feathers that you see on the wings, and will lose one feather at a time over the course of 1 year, and then the process will start all over again. And they do that so that the feathers stay in a good condition. These feathers need to slide over one another. They also have filaments, which means that they can unlock and lock through a zip mechanism, very similar to the zip that zips up your jacket, funny enough. And these feathers slide over one another, enabling the most air to be captured, and of course creating that airplane-like, low pressure underneath the wing, which generates the lift that they can get. Isn't that amazing? The only bird on Earth which doesn't molt one feather at a time is a penguin. And of course they molt all their feathers at the same time so that they are not left with a patch on their bodies that cold ocean water can get through. That is just amazing. Finding like chats on how these birds have evolved is just absolutely phenomenal. Look cute, this little guy. Very observant of what's going on. Head almost constantly moving. These birds have a very high metabolism and need to eat almost their own body weight in food every day in order to maintain this metabolism. But it also gives this very energetic, very jerky movement. They hardly ever sit still. Right now, there we go. As I was saying, they hardly ever sit still at all, and that is simply because of this massive metabolism. Their bodies are just racing. A couple of 100 beats a minute. Their hearts. Some hippo. Chastity, you wanted to know what my favorite bird is in the Mara. Good question, Chastity. One of the most striking birds that I've seen here in the Mara is the superb starling. But I'd say that my favorite is probably an ostrich. I love ostriches. I love the fact that they're just wacky birds that really, just defy sort of imagination at what they want to do. You saw some birds taking a swim on the wing. Oh, we've got some dirt now on our lens, which is giving you that blurriness on the one side. Yeah, we've got our sacred ibis still busy eating its catfish meal. It's joined by 2 Egyptian geese and by a yellow-billed stork. A pair of Egyptian geese just cropping the grass in the same pond with the sacred ibis. And he's still busy finishing off his catfish meal. I find these Egyptian geese, although they're very common in this particular area, to be quite pretty in actual fact. Have a look at that. That is quite nice. Almost a reflection generated there. I think Jean-Andre might even be proud of me, although I doubt it. He's very sparing with his commentary. Could we go to Main North while we're at it? Please, Alice. We've got something lying in the water here that I want to show you, everyone. There is the carcass of a wildebeest that is now washed down from somewhere. Upstream of where we are now, we had a massive crossing yesterday. And apart from the crocodiles, which were just sort of taking out wildebeest left, right, and center as they were battling to get up onto these rocks, I do think that a fair amount drowned, and I think this is one of those casualties. I think that 1 or 2 may have succumbed to the panic and is now beached on this rocky outcrop in the middle of the Mara River. There you can see it. Why it hasn't attracted attentions from any crocodiles just yet is unknown to me, although this is quite a common beaching place for these carcasses. And I think it's the energy of the water is a little bit high, possibly, although I've seen crocodiles here before, and maybe because the carcass is just a little bit too fresh to warrant the attentions of crocodiles living in this area. There's no other carcasses here, as you can see as I scan left and right. It's just this one. It'd be quite interesting to see how long it lasts. It's not uncommon for hyena to wade into the water and to go and fetch carcasses out of the water. It's absolutely not uncommon for crocodiles to come into these rapids and to come and feed off of this carcass, or at least dislodge it and make it float down into the pool below. It'll be much easier to dismember and eat. You can see there's a fairly substantial wildebeest there. Belly all swollen with the trapped gases. And literally hundreds of these carcasses in this river at this time. It's quite disturbing, quite honest with you. All right, we're going to be sending you over to Taylor, who's managed to find some clear skies where she is.
The tallest of them all. It's the Maasai giraffe again. We found a very nice family group, and we're looking at a couple of youngsters too. And well, you can see Mom's head is silhouetted against the sky. But there's 3 very young ones around here, and it's not uncommon for a giraffe to sort of form creches. Craig, let me park on this other side of the road. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly reposition. There's another car that's just coming through, and I don't want them to drive in front of our shot. So what I'll do is I'll just pull all the way off to the right. 2 seconds, and then they can come past us. There we go. And so as I was saying, is that it's quite typical. Normally what happens is you'll have one adult that hangs around, almost babysits, I suppose, the younger giraffe, off in the distance. In South Africa, we typically see them in the denser vegetation. They'll head to the drainage lines or some other areas where there's a sort of couple of trees and some shrubs just to give them a bit of cover. And I think it's a very, very good idea to do so, because often predators associate the adults with youngsters at their sort of side. But in the case of the giraffe, that's not always the circumstances. They form these little nursery groups. So you can see 1, 2 little ones, and there's even a third one just a little bit to the left, but being kept an eye on by all the adults. But I'm just trying to count the giraffe that we have in total. 1, 2, 3 adults, 4 adults, and 3 youngsters. Now, these little ones are various ages. They all look relatively young, so I'm going to say that one looks a little bit bigger than the other one that was standing right next to Mom. That one over there in the distance must only be about a month or 2 old. And the others seem to be just slightly older, but they're definitely all less than 6 months, only a couple of months old. Look at that scenery. I honestly cannot get enough of the views out here. It is just absolutely beautiful. And of course the sun is behind some clouds, creating beautiful light. Look at that. I think we're in for a spectacular sunset again this evening. I say that like I'm shocked. We seem to get really good sunsets every single night. There she goes. Now, Andrew, you said that Craig is being painted with his camera work. I think so too, don't you? Isn't that amazing? I'm sure Craig is enjoying being out in the Mara. Craig, are you? I asked him yesterday, but I'm just seeing what different responses I can get from him if they get. But he says it's pretty awesome. I agree, Craig. I think pretty awesome is a great way to describe this. Now, I would love to see a southern giraffe up against a Maasai giraffe so we can really see how much taller the other is. Oh, there they go. They're all going to form a beautiful silhouette across the sky now. Look at this. Mr. Killed, you said that you're guessing that the biggest giraffe that we have here is about 7 feet. I'm trying to think what that is in meters now. Hello. It's a little bit difficult, of course. I'm trying to think. 3 feet is 1 meter. So 3, 6. Sorry, we've got lots of people. I think they want to talk to me, but unfortunately I can't talk to them because we are live at the moment. Let me just tell them. Hi, sorry, I just can't chat at the moment. I'm just live. Okay, there we go. Just wanted to let them know. Isn't that amazing? There's lots of cars. I think there might be a lion sighting up ahead because there's lots of vehicles coming from this area. Apologies, Mr. Killed. I'm now being distracted by all the vehicles coming past me. Everyone is so excited and watching and looking at all this amazing stuff. Isn't that lovely? I don't think you really need to say much, and just staring, of course, at the beautiful giraffe. Look how they're using their tongues. That's amazing. Now, there's so many tall trees around here, of course, and I'd always find it funny. We see it in South Africa as well, how they do the splits, and they often go for the smallest shrub on the ground. It's entertaining. And I've had a couple of guests, you tell them that giraffe are strictly browsers, they just eat the leaves, and then when they do the splits like that and put their heads on the ground, they sort of say, "Oh, Taylor, you have no idea what you're talking about. They're eating grass. Why would they be bending so low down?" But now you can clearly see those small shrubs are obviously quite tasty. But there aren't too many trees out here that would be difficult for a giraffe to reach unless they go and feed on the river lines. And then there's some massive trees around there. And I'm very excited to start to learn the different plant species that are out here. Most of it's quite familiar. There's definitely some similar plants. And then again, there are also quite a few different ones. Craig, look who's listening to us and watching us. This is quite funny. All the other giraffe have crossed the road except this one. Just standing there looking. Did I say all sorts of nonsense? No. She doesn't seem to be too interested in us. It's a younger girl, not quite an adult. She's staring back across at the rest of the giraffe. Remember, they communicate a lot through body language. So I'm not sure what she's saying to them, but the others are probably saying, "Hurry up, you're going to get left behind." We're going to start making a move now towards those lions. Because the rain is actually coming closer and closer, and if we go west, like I said, we'll get out of the rain. So I'm going to go back across to Steph. He's still in the studio. Maybe he's got a nice cup of coffee to keep him warm, and I think he's looking at a crocodile.
We are looking at some crocodiles. Thank you very much, Taylor. I don't have a cup of coffee keeping me warm. Actually, I finished it, to be honest with you. But these two crocodiles have just been displaying at one another, and I hope they carry on doing it because they got the most unbelievable display. They snap their jaws at one another, and then they produce a sound, an ultra-low frequency sound, which is actually so deep that it vibrates the water above their backs. And it doesn't look like they're doing it now. This crocodile looks like he's sufficiently intimidated the other one. But take care. I do have an answer to your question about binocular vision. So if we can go to main north camera, please, Alice. And I'll see if I can answer your question there. It seems like we've got... There we go. Here's a crocodile that I've managed to find on main north camera and giving us a very good view of the front of its face. And I'd like to say now that I don't think crocodiles have very much binocular vision. It's quite evident there that the crocodile uses its eyes for generating a picture as close to 180 degrees as it possibly can with very little overlap. So while it's not impossible that at a certain distance in front of the nose there will be binocular vision, I have no doubt that a crocodile will choose prey favoring one side or another. And I'd like to prove it to everybody over the next couple of weeks and months. I think that when we start to see more of these crocodile hunts at these crossings, I would be very surprised if a crocodile didn't come side on to a prey or to prey, use those pits in its jaw to properly identify, and its eyes and its ears obviously, to properly identify where prey is. Zero in using sound and vision mostly, but as soon as it starts getting close, to turn their snout sideways and to strike sideways rather than to just boat into something. I would say that is the most likely event of hunting. Crocodiles using 180 degree vision, which would let them move less. In other words, stay hidden more without movement to draw attention. And then once they've decided to pick prey, zone in using vision and hearing, and then as they get closer, those pits in their jaw, and then strike sideways, burying their teeth into prey. That is what I think is going to happen. Isn't that just a fantastic shot of this youngster? Here you can see the nictitating membrane. So the crocodile's eyelid or eyeballs can be retracted into its bony skull, giving them some protection, which is what it's doing there now, pulling its eyeballs right into its head, which saves it from flailing hooves and mouths and claws and teeth and whatever else while they're catching some food. But they've also got a second membrane underneath that eyelid, that very scaly eyelid, called a nictitating membrane. And that, very similar to a dog or a house cat, your domestic dog or house cat, slides over the eyeball, protecting it from dust and from things. There we go, you could see it just sliding out of place there. But it would also add a level of protection over the eyeball, giving it almost like, how would I say, almost like swimming goggles would, enabling it to see much better underwater. Slit pupil. That is very, very nice. I drink Coke. You want to know what's in the middle of its forehead, and you see a dent there. That is a very interesting question there. I drink Coke. Let me answer it this way, using a lizard as what I think is the answer, because definitively I don't know, but what I'm going to do is suggest that this is the case. So lizards have a third eye. It is located in that exact position where that dent is. It is a thinning of the skull. There is a light collecting organelle, very similar to an undeveloped eye that lies just below the surface, called the pineal eye, pineal eye, and that is primarily used to measure the length and the intensity of daylight. For animals like crocodiles and lizards, which are cold-blooded, they need this organelle in order to judge when is the best times to help their metabolism out. So they'd be in the water, which is a pretty uniform environment. They'd stick out their head. That pineal eye would be able to very quickly ascertain what the intensity of light is, heat, a bunch of things, and would then be able to give the crocodile a much better impression of what is the environment outside the water like. And once it's outside, of course, it also acts as an organelle to judge what the light's going to be doing. But basically, I'd like to suggest that that is the location of the pineal eye in a crocodile, which is a third eye, primarily used for light, basically light and temperature. Alice, just. I'm going to say sea kick. That is what I'm hearing at the moment. There we go. Sea kick. You wanted to know what the difference is between an alligator and a crocodile. Primarily, it is location. You find crocodiles in Africa and Indonesia, and you find alligators in tropical Americas. Also, the crocodiles have a tooth that sticks out of their jaw. Let me see if I can zoom in, which alligators do not have. So that tooth that you see halfway down the jaw there, that sticks out there, basically, just left of the center of your screen, an alligator will not have. Alligators also have a broader snout than a crocodile does. A crocodile, you can see, although he is quite rounded in the front, definitely not as broad as a alligator is. There's a couple of other distinctions as well which escape me right now, but those are the ones that I can think of primarily, is that their dentition and their teeth arrangement in their skull is slightly different. They are located in different parts of the world, and they definitely have a different snout arrangement. Their snout of an alligator is much broader. I hope that answers your question. I'm sure there's a few other differentiating factors as well. It's actually quite embarrassing. The difference between a crocodile and an alligator is a very basic guiding question that you asked when you are doing your first exams as a guide in the field guiding industry. All right. What we're going to be doing is sending you over to Taylor, who looks like she's got some Warthog and some Thompson's Gazelle to show you.
We do, and I just wanted to show you again because I'm so amazed with how big the animals are here. We've obviously got a massive Warthog on the left, and we've got some Thompson's Gazelle on the right. And sure, this Warthog must weigh way more than those Thompson's Gazelle. And it looks like it's a female too, doesn't it? Yeah, I can only see one set of warts there. No, there's the second pair. Small though. Never mind, you're a boy. I was wondering, I was thinking to myself, sure, that's a very big female, but it's not. It's a big boar. He is enormous. He must weigh, easily between 70 and 80 kilograms, if not even more, probably actually even more. And I don't think he's a particularly big pig for this area too. I've seen some others with some tusks that were almost touching, basically formed a circle around his face. They were so beautiful, but doing exactly the same thing that a warthog in South Africa will do, down on his knees and using his very sort of hard cartilaginous nose, try and get the grass up. And I think they'll be very happy over the next few days because we've had obviously all that rain and all this grass is going to green up quite nicely. Isn't that beautiful? Now, we're not too far away from some of the lions. We must be only about 5 kilometers away, so it shouldn't take us too long to get there. And I'd like to get there before the sun completely sets. So we're going to move on from this water. We're going to keep going, but you can drive with us. Yeah. And on we go. You just got to go slowly. There's lots of divots here, right, from obviously previous rains. You can see this wouldn't be a great road to off-road or to head on. If you have maybe 20 or 30 mils of rain, it would be almost impossible, in fact. We've already done some slipping and sliding around this afternoon. It was lots of fun. It brings me back to the good old Eastern Cape days of driving around, where there's a lot of clay. Most of the soils and stuff have got clay in it, and because it's quite mountainous too, you learned how to 4x4 and not slip around in mud. It's very difficult to drive when the roads are sort of muddy. It's like driving on ice, though, really. So you can't really control yourself too much. Speed is your friend, in fact. What are you? Lots of little birds. Right, we're going to race. I'm going to put foot now. It seems to have leveled out quite nicely, so we can make up some time. We're going to head towards those lions. Let's go back across to Steph. And I wonder what other interesting things he's got to show you on the river cams.
We found a roosting place for some of these plain martins and wire-tailed swallows. We definitely identified some of them yesterday, and you can see them in almost the same place as what we were doing it yesterday. And I think what they're doing is they are hiding out here, getting out of the turbulence of the wind and just resting up